You're welcome to today's episode of Relationships with Adenyke. I'm so excited to have with us on the show Juanita Ingram, who has been referred to as E03 because she's an author, she's an actress, and she's also an attorney. So this is going to be quite interesting. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Good.
It's a real pleasure.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Juanita, one of the things that I'm looking forward to discussing on today's episode is what I've called knowing yourself and loving yourself. Because on this show, one of the things that guides us are threefold. I always talk about loving God, loving yourself, loving others, because I feel we were created for relationships, and at one level or the other we have these three levels of relationships. So I know you've written a new book called Fabulous, Faithful and Free, and
baby.
and just some of the insights are just perfect, so today is a masterclass episode where I'd really like to share your thoughts on what does it mean to to really know yourself and to love yourself, and I know although people call you 333, you wear different hats. So you're a mom, you are a wife, you have a career, you're an entrepreneur, you're a philanthropist, you've written books, you're in entertainment, you have your own talk show.
Yes, I'm tired just listening
oh my
to
goodness.
I'm like, who I need a nap?
So if someone hears that, they're like, okay, she's got it all going on. But you didn't just get here.
No.
There was a process.
Absolutely.
And most of the time, we all need to always remember the process of where we're going to. So tell us a bit about the process that has brought you to this place where you are.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking me that, because people often read the resume, if you will, or read my CV and the list of things that I've accomplished. And the first question is, how on earth is she doing all of that? But I'm a big proponent of seasons. And so I didn't do it all at once. And I think sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to be in a particular season and for it to be okay. So for me, my process was all about doing certain things in particular seasons and surrendering to the season that I was in. So at one point in time, especially when my children were really young, I have 2 children. And, as a new mom, all I could do was be a new mom and maybe be a lawyer, in between being a new mom. I think sometimes as wives, as mothers, as professional women, we have to recognize that we don't have to do it all at the same time. So for me, in my process, I went straight through undergrad. My bachelor's degree is in accounting. And I went straight to law school, obtained my law degree and my MBA, and then started practicing law. I've been practicing now for a little over 16 years. In the beginning, that's all I did. There's a time and a place for everything. All I wanted to do was focus on becoming the best lawyer that I could be. And that was the season for me to be in. And then as God permitted for other things to come about, it was a season for me to focus on motherhood. It was a season for me to focus on being a new wife and figuring out what that meant. But when I moved over to the UK back in 2011, and we lived here for almost 5 years, it was the first time that I had ever put a pen and pressed pause on practicing law for full time. And that's when I always had all of these books stored up in me. I just didn't have the time to write them. Because who's going to have the time to do all of that if you're practicing full time, you have 2 young children. So when people look at me, they often have this misnomer that I'm doing all of these things at once. There's no way that could be possible. I tell people all the time, they talk about, well, how do you balance things and find work-life balance? I did take the time and the process and the journey to really figure out what matters to me in my value system, and then you set priorities. It is not about balance, because work-life balance means everything is equal. Well, nothing's going to be equal to my children. It's a misnomer. Nothing's going to balance out and be equal to my children.
Exactly. I like that. That's a very interesting perspective.
So it's about prioritization, and you make your priorities before opportunities present themselves, because that will dictate how you respond. You don't wait for someone to say, hey, will you come and do my show, and will you come and do this, or will you come and act on that, and then figure out, well, what's more important to me? Is my family more important? What am I willing to compromise on? You do that before the opportunity.
Before that, that's such a brilliant one. And you said something, and at times it seems very simple when you talked about the process, but for each of those seasons, you must have had to go through certain challenges, and most importantly, first as a woman and a lot of those, but anyone, this could apply to anybody really. There's a mindset, I believe, that needs to be broken, because not only do you wear different hats, they're in completely different areas.
Yes.
And we all deal with this mindset that, you know, limits us in what we think we can do, whether we're single or whether we're married.
Yes.
Sometimes society's expectations of what we should be doing.
Yes.
You know, what are some of the strategies that has enabled you to deal with mindsets that limit you, or that make you feel this is your box?
Yes.
Stay in here and be the best you can be, and maybe dabble into one or two little things, but not just go across the spectrum to be whatever or to be whoever you want to be.
Absolutely. You know, I think it's maybe twofold in terms of strategically what you do. First and foremost, the biggest thing that I had to do was pray. And that's just how I get centered and how I get focused on what it is, because I think part of the challenge that you face when you're going outside of your what people consider your norm is your own internal dialogue and narrative and the external narratives that you receive, because everybody likes to put you in a box. I've heard, you cannot believe, I'm sure you can, but the number of times that I've heard, why can't you just be this? Why can't you just be an attorney? Why do you have to act? Why can't you just be a mom? Why can't you just, why is that not enough? And it's not that it's not enough. It's just that that's not all that I'm called to do. And so sometimes we have to deal with our own internal dialogue. What I had to do was first understand, and for me, you know, people have opinions about everything. Everything, and some people even take it back, you know, scripturally, oh, a wife is not supposed to work outside the home. You have the extreme continuum of viewpoints. I like for everything to be scriptural based. So I don't allow people to tell me something when I have a perfect example in the Bible of the opposite. So you can't tell me that there isn't a place and a lane for me to operate as an attorney when there was Deborah. Who was a judge. You know, and so you get the thought of some people that are like, oh, women shouldn't work, but there's Deborah. So you can't tell me that that lane doesn't exist for me to flourish in. And then there's the internal dialogue, because growing up, I'm not sure people expected much out of me, to be honest. I came from a broken home, broken in the sense my parents were divorced. And back then, there was a stigma with that. You know, it's an unfortunate norm today, unfortunately, but especially growing up in the South, as you can hear from my accent, I'm from America, I'm from Tennessee, and there was a little bit of a stigma that came when my parents broke up, that I wouldn't amount to much, or that I wouldn't accomplish much, and there was always this theme. And even now, to this day, when I launched my talk show, there was still those that were just like, well, why can't you just be an entertainment attorney? Why must you try to be an entertainer? And even people, you're not a star. I don't see you as a star. And who do you think you are? Who does she think she is? Even when I delved into pageantry, why are you doing that? Why do you think, you know, because I had always been in academia, I'd always, you know, been more on the going to school intelligence side, not necessarily delving into the beauty and fashion. As though I didn't have a right to be me. It is hard, because oftentimes those who are closest to you are the most limiting. They've seen you at 12, at 14, at 18, before you come into your own sense of who you are. I think the biggest thing is giving yourself permission to see yourself in the mirror as you are, as you can be, and sometimes you just have to block those voices out, whether it's your own or whether it's somebody else's. You have to take the time, and I talk about this in the book, about sometimes we'll go through life and we won't even take 10 minutes to stop just to think and pause. What do I value? And process. Because we are ever evolving. You know, the only thing that doesn't grow are things that are dead. Trees grow. You know, flowers grow. When they stop growing, they die. And as long as we are alive, you got to give yourself permission to be a different person than you were last week, and it's okay.
And it's okay. Wow. I so, you know, a lot of what you said so resonates. You know, in just most of us very similar background. You know, and it's unbelievable the very subtle messages we get from our culture, from our family, from our community, that it's so ingrained that unless we stop to pause, at times to say, why not?
Why not?
Sometimes not just, oh, why do you want to do this? You know, what is my why not?
Yes.
What is my why not?
Why not
Why
me?
can't I? Why can't
Yes.
I do it? Why
Well,
can't I stand up to it?
It's interesting because when I moved here, so I started out in theater when I was 9. My mother's a musician.
Right.
I blame my parents for this left brain, right brain conflict that I always have. My dad is in finance. My mother is a professional musician. So it's like artsy intelligence. That's why I have this constant, I blame them totally. But my mom got me started in theater when I was 9. And then, you know, I went through life and just started focusing on education and focusing on finishing my degree. When I moved here, and sometimes God moves you physically to move you into a different season, so that he pours out blessings new every day.
Yes.
Talents and gifts that emerge in the right time.
Yeah.
I auditioned here for a talent agency, and everybody told me I wouldn't get signed. You're crazy. What makes you? But I always knew that I could act. It just wasn't the right season. So I auditioned, and I remember having to tell myself when walking over to the audition, I was riddled in, you know, fear that comes up. It's a natural response to the unknown. And I remember physically, because, you know, it's London, people talk to themselves sometimes. So nobody pays you any attention. And I was like, they just assume I'm on the phone. And so I was running through my lines, talking to myself. Nobody cared. I was walking up. But I honestly started telling myself, it is okay. Why not you?
Wow.
If other people can, why not you? And there's a beautiful song that I love. It's called Even Me, Lord. You know, and it's just, even me. Why not me?
Why not?
Why not? You do have to have that dialogue, sometimes audibly, then while you're walking down the street.
Yeah.
And hopefully no one pays attention. Yes. Hopefully no
Sometimes
one pays attention.
we have to speak out loud
You do.
against the voices in our heads and risk looking like, has she gone cuckoo
Yeah.
or what?
But you got to be
know what
louder
you're
than that
doing.
voice.
I
You
like
do.
that. You're so right. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. There's so much more I need to talk to you
Yes.
about. We'll be right back after this break.